Welcome to Advertising Champions, your go-to destination for insights into the dynamic world of advertising. I'm your host, Tony Stanol, and with us today is Seth David Radwell, who is a former businessman and author of American Schism. Welcome, Seth.
Thank you, Tony. It's great to be here with you today.
Now, tell us about your journey to, what you were doing before you wrote the book, and then I want to hear all about American Schism.
Well, my entire career has been in marketing and digital advertising. I was most recently CEO of Proactive, which is the leading acne care brand in the U.S., but I've built and led many consumer products companies. And I'm very fortunate to have had a wonderful career in business. But it was a couple of years ago that I decided to do some research, which led to a book outside of business, a book more about our democratic republic called American Schism. And that kind of work is what I do now, although I still have, of course, strong links to the business community.
Right. And now American Schism, that's highly topical these days with the political divide and the left and the right, the blue states, the red states. And do you delve into all of these things in the book?
The book is an investigative tracing of the history of our divisions, with the premise that our entire political discourse today has collapsed. We're no longer oriented at solving problems. And my call to action is to my former peers, CEOs, C-level people, to engage and recognize that there has to be a better way of problem solving in the public sector. And I think so many Americans, I think over 70%, are part of what I call the frustrated majority, meaning that they recognize that the extremes on both sides are not productive. It's counterproductive, and we need a better way. And so that's what led me to do the research that came to form American Schism, which won the International Book Award last year for Best General Nonfiction.
Nice. And where could someone find your book? I'm sure Amazon is one destination.
Sure. It's available on Amazon. If you go to americanschismbook.com, there's a lot of information about the book and where you can find it. And I encourage readers to reach out to me. I speak often on podcasts and on radio and at events about the importance of understanding our history, because I believe that history can act as a salve for our wounds if we'd only apply it.
Now, you're in a little town I like to call New York City. Is the book written through the lens of a New Yorker, or do you take a holistic view? What's the angle of attack?
Well, that's kind of a really interesting question, because there are many ways of characterizing the American Schism today. But and of course, it originally started during our founding, which is what the book goes back to. Certainly, cities, urban areas, as contrasted to rural areas of America, is one aspect of what's driven the huge schism. But the way I like to think about it is it's less so much about particular cities or rural areas. It's more about those Americans who've benefited from globalization and those who've suffered under it over the last 40 years. And that has created a situation where there's great unevenness in how Americans are faring, how they're doing. And that's kind of a key part of the American Schism today.
And how up to date is the book? I know you wrote it fairly recently, but what time period does it end in terms of coverage?
So it goes back to the Enlightenment and our founding, when the original American Schism happened. It then goes through 5 periods of our history using the framework of the original schism as a map. And it goes up till today. And what the book does, in essence, is it, from these different episodes of division, divisiveness, polarization, it distills lessons. And it turns out that if you do this analysis, that there is a secret sauce, a magic formula for how at times in our history when we've been very polarized, like today, we've managed to move past it to get to solutions when we've used this secret sauce. At other times when we haven't used it, when we've abandoned it, we've had very violent outcomes like the Civil War. And my fear as an American who's benefited enormously from what I still consider the best example of self-government in the history of the planet, my fear is that we've abandoned that secret sauce today. We're not using it. And I'm trying to call us back to do so, which requires many folks in the frustrated majority, in kind of the center, if you will, center left, center right, to wrestle back the gavel from the lunatics who are running the asylum.
Well said. Now we're just about out of time here, Seth. I'm taking a smidgen of hope from what you're saying, that the secret sauce, I guess, could be found in the book. So people are going to have to read it.
That's right. I mean, I think the secret sauce is not so it's not so complicated. It's about, I'll give you listeners a preview, but I do hope they read it. It's about, first of all, operating in an empirical framework, using data, which matters. It's about listening to other points of view, and it's about driving to compromise. Now, those three things, data, listening, and understanding other points of view, and compromise, if you notice, they're almost disappeared from our public discourse today.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope people go out and take advantage of the wisdom in American Schism, and have yourself a good day.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's been great to be with you.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Advertising Champions. You could find out more shows like this at dailynewsnetwork.com. See you next time.
We've been around for 16 years, working with clients, with thousands of clients. We're working with agencies to be able to scale them and grow them and provide them services that would cost them way more than it would for them to do it themselves. Anything oriented around lead generation, video creation, web design, we're full service, so we can really serve most people.